We're still kind of working out the details, but yeah, we're on it. We'll make it happen one way or another. Welcome back, everybody. I'll let Matthew lead because he's got a webinar going.
What's that?
So I'll let you lead because you got a webinar going. So we're doing
oh yeah, I forgot you're doing this on YouTube too.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful.
Saddlecast it, I guess. Simulcast.
Yeah. So let's just set the stage here first before we get started. So I'm Matt Tuttle, run Tuttle Capital Management. We're an ETF issuer, 23 ETFs, about $4 billion in AUM. A lot of the ETFs I design are for active traders because I'm one of them. I trade my own account all day, every day using something I call the HEAT formula. HEAT stands for hedges, edges, asymmetry, and themes. So, what we want to do here, and why we call it the watch list is, Jeremy and I, and I'll let Jeremy introduce himself in a minute, are going to talk about, the key themes, the key names that we're watching now, and also provide some education on, how we come up with the themes and the names that we're watching. So, Jeremy, turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'm just some retail trader who enjoys showing others how to maintain consistency and build the knowledge necessary to get there. And it's in various fields: options, futures, price action, pretty much anything that provides opportunity in the market. I love, one, learning for myself, and then two, paying it forward and teaching others. So it's what the Bullish Bears is all about. It's a community where we have a few other moderators that are like-minded, each with their own different strategies and styles of analysis and trading. And, well, you get a variety with us, and anything you want to learn, we're all over it. We've probably forgotten more than most people will know. So moving into what I do with the watch list, I do technical analysis, and I simplify it as pretty much dumbed down as I can, just to make basic price targets and provide kind of a little insight for the chartist out there to be able to utilize that price action in a meaningful way that either gives you a good options trade, a good futures trade, a good equities trade, or a good index trade on pretty much any given ETF. All that price action is the same, and price action is the fundamental for everything you want to do with trading. For some, it's book map and order flow and all the other different stuff, but price action is just the most simple thing you can learn that can build your basis to get you started as a consistent trader. Work with that and move on from there. We teach everything from like scalping penny stocks that are, sometimes down to the dime level, 10 cents. And teaching price action on that is the very same that we teach on futures and even swing trades out into, monthly charts even. It's all the same price action. It's just how you analyze it. Putting everything into one box and learning a simple procedure for price action analysis gives you an edge in any market condition. Combine that with Matthew here, who's an amazing fundamental analyst, also catches into the themes and the news and stuff like that all has a play in the market. Add some technical analysis to it, and then suddenly you will be amazed with the kind of accuracy you can get from that.
Let me push back on that for a minute. I'm not a fundamental analyst. And quite honestly, I don't think there's any alpha left in fundamental analysis. All the information in the world is out there. When I started investing, it was the early 80s. And, that's when we had to go to a library. So you could have a lot of alpha in fundamental analysis, and you did. You have the star money managers who, would kill other guys. You don't have that anymore. So what I'm a chartist at heart. Problem is I don't have time anymore to sit around and be reading charts. I do, I'll do some trading based on charts. Typically, it's going to be more along the lines of counter trend indicators. I love 2, 3, and 4 period RSI. I talk a lot about edges, And I think most of the time, if you find an edge, it gets arbed away. RSI and other counter trend indicators, I also use a 2-period Williams percent R. Those have not gotten arbed away. I mean, people have known about that stuff since the 90s because it's based on human psychology. So I'll do that for some shorter term trading. Longer term, what I'm trying to keep track of is I want to be invested in today's top themes and tomorrow's top themes. So what I do is a couple things. A, I keep my eyes open. Like the AI theme is pretty obvious unless you're living under a rock. B, I'm looking at the news every single day. And if, an article is interesting to me, what I use is I use ChatGPT. So I will take that article, throw it into ChatGPT, say, hey, what do you think of this? Give me the winners, give me the losers. I pay attention to social media. A lot of times guys on social media are ahead of stuff, and are into things before I see them. Yeah, if I had to guess, the most profitable theme I was in last year was Argentina. And I got that from a guy on social media. Now, I have to think I would have eventually caught on, but he got me into it really, really early. And you look at any of those names, it's the most beautiful uptrend you've ever seen. I took profits. I'm looking for spots to get back in, and I'm looking for the next Argentina. But social media is another. So, that's kind of what I'm doing, on a day-to-day basis. I did a podcast yesterday. Someone said, well, aren't you addicted to ChatGPT? Yeah, I mean, at this point I am.
Well, I didn't mean to put you in a box as a fundamental analyst.
No, that's all right. My kid is a fundamental analyst. He works for a top hedge fund. And, I can do in 5 minutes with AI what takes him a week to do.
Exactly. And then my point, I guess, is that you're able to combine a lot more outside forces into price action analysis and have an even better edge in the market with it.
Right.
So,
and I've just, by the basis of, what I have to do every day and responsibilities, I need to be more long-term. I used to day trade. I love day trading. I was good at it. I don't have time for it anymore, unfortunately.
it's and it kind of I explained that a little bit with some of our newer members. Well, not newer members, but I tell them that eventually you'll become seasoned enough to where if you have enough growth in your day trading to where you can apply that to much longer positions, you end up migrating that way anyway. But everything you learn day trading plays a key role in and being able to analyze your targets in your long-term stuff. So it's kind of a win-win. You can start out as a day trader. You still love day trading, but you just don't have the time for it anymore because you've got a lot of wheels to crank there. So a lot of levers to pull. And sometimes I compare it to how I started out. I had a day job. I was working 40 hours a week, and I was not able to day trade except for maybe 30 minutes in the morning before work. I was in Montana time, so I could do that. My job didn't start till later in the day, so I could play the market time into effect that. Well, now I live on the East Coast, can't do that anymore, but I was still working part-time as I moved out here. The idea is I couldn't day trade as much as I'd like to starting out. I knew very well how to do it, but I used what I learned in it to make better decisions on my swing trades. So I could go and start my day off looking at the market, setting limit orders for swing trade entries and exits, and work with that. So it would be almost automated while I'm working my day job. And if the position's filled, cool. I get an alert on my phone, glance at it. All right, I'm in. Go back to work. It's essentially something that kind of you can put on autopilot, and it takes a little bit of learning and price action and analysis for that. And then options are the whole bag is getting into the options. It's what we call the PhD that you need later once you've understood price action, which some people even call trade school at this point. So by comparison, you can actually take advantage of being able to utilize your time for whatever you need while still maintaining a place in the market that you can potentially gain from and make a living on. So.
Cool. So let's get into some names we're looking at. I'll start. So yeah, again, I'm focused on themes, and I don't know, a year or so ago, I kind of caught on to the whole GLP-1 weight loss drug theme. Not because I'm a fan of weight loss drugs. I'm a guy that changed my health 25 years ago with diet and exercise. I think we'll probably see horrific side effects come from these drugs. But I also think that people are inherently somewhat lazy, and given the choice between diet and exercise or a shot, they'll take the shot. So I made a lot of money on Lilly and NVO. Got out, when Trump got elected and he was bringing Bobby in, because I know Bobby is not a fan of these drugs. Actually went short Lilly for a bit, and I've been sitting on the sidelines. And I saw, a news article that they finally scheduled Bobby for a confirmation hearing. And I don't know why I use ChatGPT a lot, putting in stuff. I don't know why it ever occurred to me. You and I, Jeremy, have been talking. I don't know what to do with these weight loss drugs. I put it into ChatGPT. I said, hey, look, Bobby's going to have his confirmation hearing. We know he hates these drugs. We know he's going to go after them. Rate his chances from 1 to 10 on being able to make a meaningful revenue impact against these drugs. And ChatGPT said it's a 2 or 3. We don't think he's going to be able to do it. So you know what? I looked at the charts. They'd gone down a lot. I went long both this morning. I'm up 9% on my Lilly calls already, and I'm up 1% on my NVO calls. But just one of those things. I don't know why it didn't occur to me sooner. If I don't know where to go on something, ChatGPT's got the knowledge of all the best investment analysts on the face of the earth. Why not ask? So those are a couple new positions for me this morning.
I wonder if ChatGPT queries my stuff. Just kidding. I'm nobody.
I can tell it to.
There you go.
I'll see if it knows you. It knows who I am. I'll see
fun.
if it knows you next time I talk to it.
That'd be fun. I like the chart on NVO better. For analysis, it works great. It's got really clean levels in it, and I know LLY is pretty much the same, but my drawings on LLY are chaotic, where they're just smooth on NVO. I can see a good reason to go long on this for at least a rebound trade. And for NVO, I've got a pretty obvious liquidity zone off this wick here on the weekly chart. Starts right around 85.5 and goes on up to about almost 90, about 89.5. So it's good for a short-term bounce here, I think. But long-term, I still wonder, if Chat GPT gives it a 3, I got to wonder how much it's going to be influenced by all the weight against it in the political standpoint of being against these drugs.
Yeah, and that's where position sizing comes in.
Right. It's like, I could see, great sizes in shorts on the election day. Those were great plays. But coming back, being counter trend, you definitely want to weigh your risk. Maybe take I always suggest, like, if you're going to leave a runner in a fight or you're going to trade counter trend and you've already killed it on one side of it and you're trying to catch the rebound stuff, maybe take about 10% of your total gains from your previous wins into risk at most. Most people might even go down so far as like 3% of their total gains to run a reciprocate trade or a rebound trade. So it makes sense to be able to balance your risk in that for sure. And then, as far as volatility goes, I love volatility. That's the day trader in me. Volatility pays my bills, quite literally. I've been kicking around the idea of even making a really cool hat that involves that, but I'll go later. But the idea is, like, if you're scalping back and forth and stuff, and you're catching these counter trend moves, there's many ways to fry that fish. And we were talking a little bit about combining moving averages and drawings and charts, and I kind of like to use one to confirm the other. And then if both mindsets are pointing the same way, take the trade. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. So like you can combine styles and combine analysis to give you an edge in your day trading as well as your swing trading. So pretty obvious swing trade setup here, right off the key support area around 79. I would say we're not going to close this gap anytime soon, but if we do melt through this zone, we know when it'll happen, when the time comes. So for now, we have a short-term resistance target, 85.60 is about the exact base of that sucker. And all I had to do was look left and find a big wick where all the limit orders were. So find some bag holders and trade their range.
Yeah.
What was the other thing we were looking at as far as there was a couple other tickers we were talking about recently?
I mean, there's a lot. Where I think it's going to be very interesting is around healthcare and biotech. So Jensen Huang came out, I don't know, maybe a year ago and said that, the most impactful area for AI is going to be on healthcare. When I heard that, I started formulating the idea for, a AI healthcare ETF in my head. And I figured 2 years away. So, 2026, 2027, maybe I'll work on something like that. I saw a podcast with Mark Andreessen where he said the same thing. And I thought, all right, I mean, maybe it's getting a little bit closer. Over the weekend, it came out that Nancy Pelosi had bought Tempest AI, which is a name that, you and I on the older version of the Watchlist had talked about. It's a name I own.
Right.
There's nothing better than, owning an obscure stock and news comes out that Nancy Pelosi bought it. So it went up 40% that day. It dragged up the other kind of main AI names. One is Schrodinger, SDGR, which is a name I've been in before, not in now. It popped immediately. I figured I'd wait and see if I got to pull back, and then it was up like 15% the next day.
What was that ticker?
I mean, unfortunately, I have an issue on buying breakouts. I hate doing it. I know you have a much easier time doing that than me. So I missed it. I'll wait for that to come back. But we are now actively working on, and then the Starlink announcement the other night. If anyone saw that press conference, all Larry Ellison talked about was AI in healthcare. So it is a lot closer than I thought. We're working on that. One other thing on healthcare that caught my eye today, and this is what I do every morning. There was an article in the Journal about Trump signing some sort of executive order banning gain of function, and someone tweeted about it and said, hey, this is going to be negative for Moderna and Pfizer, which was music to my ears because I'm short those names. So I punched it into GBT and said, hey, who are winners and losers? It actually said, what? No real impact on Moderna and Pfizer, but who it impacts is a company called Charles River and another company, I even forget what it's named. The symbol is EBS. And it thought it could really impact those guys. So I bought puts, and we'll see. I'm down slightly at the moment, but one of my main portfolio philosophies is always have hedges, be agnostic between long and short. I do not feel comfortable not having puts somewhere. Personally, I added puts on ARC yesterday and IWM this morning just because I think the market's a bit ahead of itself. But I'm agnostic between long and short. So that's what I'm looking at in healthcare.
I was just looking at that is it EBS, Echo Bravo Sierra?
EBS, Echo Bravo Sam.
Gotcha. It's set up for a reversion trade, and it certainly spiked a nice long wick on the open this morning. So that could be a decent short. Back down 2 targets. We got one at about $10 and the other one down here about $9.40. That might be a decent little short. I did notice that on the weekly, though, it is setting up for partial market structure. But with biotech, I almost never trust market structure. So this might end up being a decent short. Um, However, let me look way, way left. Been there and done that. Sometimes it can trend. So I'll wait and see myself before I go and short something like this. But I did have another idea on a couple ways to look at this type of stuff. So if we're looking at some hype popping it up, and we typically will see this, when you see penny stocks, they tend to short squeeze quite often when they get a news risk inquiry on something where it comes out in the news or the FDA or something like that. You'll see the short sellers love to just fade these things. And here's an example here where it spiked up to like 1265 and just ripped a face off down here. That's a huge loss for a lot of bag holders up here. So the reversion trades are pretty obvious when you start noticing that they tend to be in a range. You'll see you can just basically set a pivot line across the top of the biggest candles in the mix on the daily or the weekly chart, and typically you'll have short-term scalp targets. So for a day trader, these are awesome because you can scalp them on the way up and then flip your position and scalp them on the way down too, because 9 out of 10 times something like this is going to get shorted. And every time it pops up, it's like whack-a-mole to the short sellers. So everybody can complain about them on social medias. In fact, I see a lot of it on the Weeple social. People will talk about a chat about a particular equity or something. You get a lot of permabulls are like, damn, these short sellers, they're killing us, blah, blah. If you can't beat them, join them. Learn a day trade. You'll get there. But yeah, I think this might be a decent little short, but it does have that flag effect too. And this is where I start doing some technical drawings and realizing that it plays right into the fundamental price analysis that I just explained on Google this morning. I'm going to put an instructional video on it too. Or if you want time, I could show you now.
Hey, and one thing I forgot, I mean, feel free at any point, guys, ask us questions, type them into the question bar. I'll keep an eye on that. Another area that, I mean, we've been killing it, amazingly so, are the nuclear names.
Yes.
And, and that's one, like, if you listen to the so-called smart money, they'll tell you, oh, nuclear is 5-10 years away, which is probably true. But, understand the market is a forward-looking mechanism. But you also want to understand first order, second order thinking, and third order thinking. So, nuclear is part of AI. First order thinking in AI is who are going to be the winners, NVIDIA.
Right.
There's no real alpha anymore in just buying NVIDIA. Second order is, what does NVIDIA need, or what does AI need to make it go? And one of the big things it needs is power. And and why you can't rely on the smart money. I just saw this morning, I think it was Guggenheim, just upgraded a bunch of utilities to buy. It's like, really? Like now? Again, you and I have been in the utilities for what, like a year? And Guggenheim is just now getting the memo that these are buys, which, is probably the top of the market at this point. But nuclear, nuclear you need. But all right, so if nuclear is 5 to 10 years away, well, what do I also want? I want the suppliers. Who are the guys who are going to be building the nuclear plants? Those are the guys you want to be in as well.
Right.
And all across the board, that stuff's just killing it. And, today our light bridge is up 20%, NNE is up 19, Oklo is up 13.
Even CCJ is getting on.
CCJ is doing well. And what that also brings me to is risk management on this stuff. I do love keeping an eye on Twitter and social media to see kind of, what themes those guys are hopping on. there are some people on social media that maybe have a lot more risk tolerance than me. One of the things I love about options is you can define for yourself what a unit size is. And when you're buying the option, you know exactly your risk. So, I can buy a light bridge, which, yeah, it's extended, but I can define my risk exactly in an option. How much am I willing to risk on light bridge? My risk is defined and my upside is unlimited. And then what I'll do personally is I'll look through, and if something gets to be too big a part of my portfolio, I'll take some gains and cut it down to a size where I'm willing to lose. And then you get into a situation where your position is basically free. And you've already kind of made back your cost basis on the option, and then everything else is gravy.
And it's great that, like, I remember way back when we even started talking about Lightbridge. I think that was gosh, that's going on 3.5 months ago. Time flies. Finally hitting my reversion target today, right there at about $9 or $8.80, $9 somewhere in there. Now I can go and say, like, well, when we were talking about nuclear, this is one that just kind of popped into my brain because I had day traded it back when it was trading around $2. It's just a flash memory moment, but it's similar to how you would use AI to figure out, well, where are all of the attached equities in this? Who's the winner? What's the counterplay? Who's the producer? Who's the supplier? And Lightbridge kind of popped into my head as like, hey, I bet you these guys are going to be hot, and they sure as hell were. Now we can say, well, if things continue to get swifty here and keep running, it's pretty easy to just build measured move targets. And I just stacked one right now. I mean, we've got an extension all the way up here to like 1250 is a pretty reasonable range. Even though our fib level up here is 1275, it's reasonable now that we've crossed the reversion trade line right here. So you put it all together and you have not only an edge, you've got a multifaceted mace, so to speak, to just club the market with. And we killed this entire theme from end to end. Everything on that mace ball was our spike. We killed it. What's next? We got to figure out, well, yes, who's constructing these plants? Where are we going to find the real money falling into this thing? Yes, it's going to take some time to build them, but who's the immediate contractor who's going to be in the game on this thing? And we're going to probably find some decent little names out there. And I think NNE was one of them that we came up with right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, Curtis Wright is one. They just got an upgrade from somebody like yesterday or the day before. BWXT is another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that third order thinking. Like everybody can do first order, so everyone can jump on NVIDIA, and right. I do think that you should own NVIDIA. I mean, NVIDIA is a core holding for me, but are you going to get tons of alpha from just holding NVIDIA now? I don't think you will. No. So the second order, a lot of times people can do. The third order is tough, and then the other thing, kind of back to the whole idea of always having hedges, is I also always want to know, who are the losers going to be. So, in the AI theme, one of the things that I do is, I keep an eye on what companies are saying in earnings. And if any company is coming out and saying, hey, yeah, AI is giving away for free or for $200 a month what we charge for, and it's causing problems, that's a company I want to be short. Right. There's nothing right now that I'm aware of. The poster child for that was Chegg. I mean, Chegg was an awesome stock, but basically they sold educational stuff. Once AI came out, it's like, wait, I can get what Chegg charges me for free, and it went from like 30 to 2. Yeah. So stuff like that is cool if you can find it.
You can find who loses. Yeah, when AI is going to bring everything to market, it's like what Google did to a lot of information services back in the day. There were some losers back then. Um, Now we've also kind of tipped into some of the energy stuff, and on the other side, like we were looking at CEG, which just absolutely destroyed every goal we put in front of it and keeps on chugging. Um, we're looking at just finishing these price targets. Yesterday, I put a announcement on the Twitter site, and I think I spread it to Facebook and one of the others. But we have a short-term target about 345 and some change on this guy, and it's just nailing it right now. Now we're looking at the extension up here to 374. It's very possible it could even nail that today. So pretty easy stuff when we start charting it and start having the fundamental knowledge of what's the big picture look like, where should we be focused, and then the tools that we get like AI, we can ask questions and inquire these things, so we can put all of the technical analysis data on a chart we want, and then use all this other stuff to confirm what we're seeing. And the first step though is finding what the theme is, and that's where you start looking for what's the current fad, what is the current rumor, what is the current thing that everybody's talking about in the market space. And it becomes easy at that point. It's just a matter of layering things together and finding your edge and trading it.
Well, and you've got, I mean, you've got to condition your mind. So, when I was kind of starting out in the business, Peter Lynch, Fidelity Magellan, was the guy. And he wrote a book called One Up on Wall Street. And the whole idea was, look around at the stuff that you use, that you really love, and then ask yourself whether that's a public company or not. So like, his wife loved Legs Pantyhose. Whatever company, owned that, he bought, made money on. He would get breakfast every day at Brugger's Bagels, which was a Boston, landmark, so he bought that stock. Think the same way about themes. So now, whenever I see a news article, whenever I see something, I'm automatically thinking, is that a theme? Like, the California wildfires, that, I'm long the rebuilding stocks, and, and I'm short the insurance companies, because I read that article. I'm like, oh my God, it's horrific, like everyone else thought. But then I'm thinking, who are the winners and losers? And then that's where ChatGPT comes in. So, everybody can do it. You've just got to condition your mind to do it.
Exactly. It was, as we've been kind of talking about a little bit beforehand, it was, we were from a generation where we were kind of in the sweet spot between, millennials and Generation X, to where we were the ones who had an easy time training our minds to utilize Google, for that matter, and all the technology attached. Now it's, let's teach our minds how to use AI, very similar to how we would use it to take advantage of Google. But now we've got a much broader horizon. We would take and try to focus on, well, what questions should I be asking Google to find the information I need, to now you simply ask a simple question and you get all the peripherals straight from AI. So it's as if AI is taking the space of your Google brain, and now you can utilize it to catch all little tentacles attached to that thought process. It's a big tree. So pretty neat stuff, and having that at your fingertips is unbelievable. So you've really got to focus on training your mind to utilize it in this way. It is really going to be your edge in the market, no matter what you're doing.
So another name that's out there this morning is Evolve, EVLV. And one of my favorite themes for a while, which is why we launched the GUNZ, EUF, GUNZ, is self-defense. And, even though you might look at, Trump's law and order, he's going to deport people, he's going to start, charge, all that's, none of that happens overnight.
Right.
What happened January 1st is a stark reminder that there are, people who are American citizens who want to do us harm, and, and people who aren't. I've got a kid who lives in New York. She's got a taser and she's got mace. I got a kid who lives in Chicago. He's got the same. And you need to have those things. So and Evolve is a name we added to guns. Luckily, in the last rebalance, the guy who runs my index was kind of, not a fan until he became a fan, luckily. So, and other names in that theme, Axon, Palantir, I think that's an extremely powerful theme.
Definitely. And PLTR, I was just looking at that last night, and I missed the boat on that last move, but I'll find a better chart on it. But here for EVLV here, nice little tight wedge on the base, and this is kind of in the second part of market structure where we expect a typical reversion trade. So I can put some quick targets on this real quick if it breaks out of this wedge. Pretty obvious, about $5 and maybe a penny or two over, right to this previous high, and that would prospectively give us the measured move target anyway. So this is our primary. If we stack the secondary here, we put the same target. So pretty easy price targets on this one. And then halfway, you're going to find a little liquidity here. So just adding my little bit of range here, you just look for the wicks and you'll find all the bag holders every time, guys. This is where the limit orders will typically be, right in that range. So I'm going to put that right in here. I like to paint those orange. It's just time consuming, but it's worth doing. Makes it easier on the eyes. So about 460 is a good extension target out of just the breakout part of it. And then we'll see if we can leave a few runners on for the ultimate goal, which is reversion to about $5 and some change. So pretty good setup. I like this one. And then I'm going to throw a curveball at you. This is one that we talked about last night in the evening session. Well, power hour session, we call it in our community. But it was one that was given to one of our moderators by just one of, it's like a friend of a friend situation. But I looked into it a little bit more in depth after hours, and I'll give you the ticker here. It is RZLV. Resolve is a Resolve AI Limited. Let me get the technicals on this. Terrible looking chart, right? But there's a nice little double bottom here, and it's this is, I'm going to coin the phrase from one of our previous moderators from way back in the day. He called this the Wu-Tang double bottom because it's got that skewed W look like their logo. And I'm thinking if we pick up some momentum and we break the mean here, and we're right up against it here at about $3.20, this could be a good breakout play for reversion. And that's got a target for me of about $6.70 right there in the middle of that trend. And that's the technical on this one, but the things they're involved with, more of using AI in a transactional state. I know I've been hammering like Block, which changed its ticker to XYZ just the other day, and then there's PayPal, which is another one I've loved to trade. Same kind of scenario, only this one is AI powered. So this makes a little sense to me in the long run. I'll put more pieces together on it, but technical analysis is saying it's likely to give us a decent breakout move if it can break this range. And I'll stick that right about there. It's about the halfway point.
I'm going to ask GPT what it thinks.
It might even have been that the person who gave that information to the moderator asked GTP about it, if I remember correctly. I'll throw some names around later on, but this is one that caught my attention because I love the setup. It's got that market structure look to me, and then if you look at the base, IPO stayed pretty flat for a while. Short sellers capitalized the crap out of this thing, and then it's just given us a really nice reversion target with a potential reversal here. So definitely one to watch.
Yeah, I'll let you know when chat finishes running here.
Very cool. That's a curveball. This is similar to that light bridge thing that I threw at you way back in the day.
Yeah, though I mean, if this works out half as well or a quarter as well as light bridge, I'll be happy. Yeah, light bridge, I'm up 117% on my calls.
Isn't that cool? I love that one.
Yeah, I do too.
There's few opportunities that'll show up like that, but when they do, man, they make sudden sense. And when you get ahead of it, and this is right in the L2 range, I like to call it, for that little double bottom here. It's got the look where we could see this thing make some big moves. And percentage-wise, you're up 100% on the calls. The equity on LightBridge went up, what, 300%? So this is just your short-term calls. Back when we were trading this, I was running the same scenario, running some swing trades on calls and spreads and stuff, and running those 100%ers over and over again. When you find the right equities, the options start to make sense.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of taking some profits, I think I'm going to sell a little bit of my LightBridge while we're going.
Sometimes we got to multitask, and then we'll knock into. We were talking about looking into crypto a little bit too here, and then
supposedly Trump finally mentioned it. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin 104. I mean, MicroStrategy was up big. Now it's back down. But my head trader, who's a massive crypto guy, said that Trump mentioned it at Davos. I didn't see it. I mean, whether he did or he didn't, what we've got for the first time ever is we've got a pro-crypto administration, a pro-crypto president, a pro-crypto SEC. And where that's important is what we've seen in the ETF landscape. And we're going to have some filings. I was hoping maybe this week, but maybe next week. But you saw filings for like every coin. And, we're going to see more and more and more of that. And once you have ETFs for these coins, old guys like me are going to be comfortable trading them. So our partners filed for a 2X or not, they filed for a Trump. I'm going to file for a 2X Trump. But I'm not going to trade that unless it's in an ETF.
Right.
I was on Yahoo yesterday talking about option plays. And one of the things I bought yesterday was Coinbase, because all of these ETFs are going to need to use them for custody. And yeah, all right. I mean, so far so good.
And Coinbase is on the cusp of a measured move setup too. We're looking
I'm up
at this
like 8 and 4. I bought 2 calls. I'm up 8 and I'm up 4%. So not a big deal, but
I mean, I placed the reversion target for a half measured move off this base here, and on the weekly chart, it's a long time, but looking for a swing to about 334 is about the average move here. If it exceeds that, I mean, 410 is pretty much a full M up. And on the daily, we were looking at this little structure here. When we talked about it last, we were looking at it might be like the old inverse head and shoulders thing, but it's not quite. This is yet another Wu-Tang double bottom. I'm going to throw that around a lot. Coming up above the resistance level, we're consolidating, and the rest of the move, if things remain good, the daily, ride that 50 on up to that target. Might even just give us a quick blast and hit the top of this bar here first, so like 308 or so for short-term quick scalp target, and then reversion follow through should be right up to the previous resistance level. So it's setting up pretty good. And then I was looking at Mara as well, kind of the same way, but this is earlier in structure compared to coin. I think Mara is kind of dragging a little bit, but it's
remember it's a different business,
right?
All related but different business.
But it's a little bit earlier in the stage of the same setup that I saw in coin here, where we have a little double bottom here, and we're starting to eke up against the resistance level. And if this becomes support, I got the pivot in red here at $20.36. If we break and close above that, maybe not today, it might be later in the week or next week. If that becomes support, the follow through for a reversion trade would be up to $22.50. So pretty easy setup there too.
Back to Resolve for a second. ChatGPT came back. So one of the things that I think is extremely important if you're using ChatGPT is learn how to prompt. So what I do is I don't ask it, hey, is Resolve a good stock? Is Resolve going to go up? I mean, to me, all that stuff's just stupid. What I
Yeah.
do ask it is to rate it from 1 to 10 on their ability. I love 1 to 10 ratings. Rate it 1 to 10, and I ask GPT on their ability to profit from an increase in AI. And they rated a 7. Normally I kind of like, 8 and above, but I mean, 7's not bad. It may be something I take a flyer on. Small speculative position. If Resolve successfully executes its go-to-market strategy, it could ride the wave of AI spending growth. Keep a close eye on its financial disclosures, partnership announcements, all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. The old debt to asset ratio and all that happy stuff. And I took a small speculative position in as well, equity wise, yesterday, and doesn't have options unfortunately, but it's set up for a decent trade anyway. For an equity trade, it's not bad. Be cool if it ever became optionable. Not likely, but we can dream. And then we were talking a little bit earlier in the week about some of the quantum computing stuff, and we were able to make some pretty good scalps on it. But long term, it's still not quite there. IONQ was the one we're scalping recently in this diamond pattern effort, and it didn't quite break above the LZ up here, so it didn't quite shoot the moon here for the angular resistance. But it's still kind of hanging in there in the liquidity zone for support. So I'm looking at some short-term possible quick liquidity grab or liquidity dip to eat the rest of this candle here. Maybe we see it bounce off of 39 real quick. So watch out for a quick little short on that. And it looks like this morning people were all over shorting that. Puts us to the base, $38, $39 for support. If we bounce here, cool, we can finish the move up to the angular. But for now, just be nimble on this. And as I said when we first talked about it back down here, where we were saying, hey, this is looking likely to bounce. It sure as hell did. But be nimble, know where the zones are. Now we're in an area where if you took profit off of this move, take a very meager approach to adding any positions here, long or short. Don't throw a bunch of weight at it. This is where you take the weight off. However, there's some angular here, so we're kind of teasing that. Maybe we get a quick bounce, liquidity grab again, see another wick pop through here, and then short it. So it's possible. We'll see what happens.
Now, for me, I'm looking at it differently. So I've got leaps on all of these names.
Yeah.
Position sized accordingly because we don't know. Quantum could be 30 years away. It could be a month away. We have no idea. Quantum could be bigger than AI. It could be a flash in the pan and go away. I think there's tremendous potential there. I like having appropriately position size leaps. We're working on a quantum ETF because what's out there right now stinks. And what I've constructed, and I had AI constructed for me, blows that away. I think there's potential that either quantum could be bigger than AI, or quantum along with AI working together could be a game changer. So I'm going to have leaps in all these names. If I have time, I might do short-term trading in and out of them. And there are ways that you can construct options positions to reduce risk. Like I do ratio spreads from time to time, where I'll sell in around the money call, and then buy. For one around the money call, I'll buy 2 slightly out of the money calls, and then that way, if I'm wrong and it goes down, I break even. I've got unlimited upside. I only lose money if it doesn't really move. And the cool thing about these names, they're going to move. I don't know what direction they're going to move, but they're going to move. And why I like having them, long term, is so much is happening so fast that you could be the best chart reader in the world. but you can't see the news coming. I mean, CEG was a great example.
Right.
I was in it, and the other day they announced an acquisition that the market loved, and it was up 25%. You could have been the best chart reader the day before. There's nothing you're seeing that's going to tell you that.
Nope. And I would agree with having long-term positions on this anyway. The leaps look really good on it. And yeah, there's no way of knowing, what's going to happen. But even though we don't have an exact figure, and we never really do, we put approximate targets out pretty regularly here. But this is one of those where, yeah, we can size it up, but we're not going to be able to call out exactly where it is. And an example of CEG, it blew away our expectations, and now it's like, touching that reversion target. We looked at Lightbridge and had some expectations there. It blew those away and went into full reversion mode and did the same thing. So we can't always be dead on with where is it going to stop, but we know where the trades are, and that's the important part, is knowing where to expect it to find a range. And if you're looking at there's two strategies you can go with when it comes to running leaps. You can structure it to where you can calendar spread it or do the poor man's covered call. Or there's another strategy I like to utilize. And in some cases you can do it. You might be able to do it with this one, where you can have a collar strategy with a slight skew in a calendar. So like your collar strategy is going to have a protective long put. That's ideally going to have more time to expiration than your short side. And then if price is spiking up when you go to enter that, you can sell covered calls against your longer position, or against your leaps, if you will, and still have a protective put in there, so you're not wasting your long leap side. In a sense, if it runs you over to the downside, you're at least protected on the downside with it. So you're not in a directly biased position. You're just selling some calendar spreads against your leap and also protecting it with a protective put. So you lay a collar on top of it with a calendar spread on the call side. So you take the calls a week or two beforehand. This also works with long equity positions the same way. You could be long equity and then just build a direct collar with some skew between the calls and the put side, where you can go a week or two back on the calls. And oftentimes you can open them for net credit, and it pays for your downside protection. So strategies are very key in that. And learning the basis of a collar strategy can give you that adaptability where you can kind of convert different strategies into short-term volatility protectors and then roll them out later. So lots of stuff to learn with options. It's not just about scalping them long or short or taking outrights and stuff. There's many ways you can adapt your strategy on the fly with options, and that's what their real intended purpose is to not only generate income or give you something to trade. It's an ability to adapt your outlook on something to either cover you through short-term volatility or keep you in a position for the long haul when you have really good faith in the company, or any sort of investment structure. It protects you on that too. So
we just had a statement from Howard, which I would agree with. Said tweet analysis is more important than technical analysis with the current administration. And a great example of that is coal. So again, I think, Trump is done talking at Davos, and, I missed a good chunk of it, but I think he mentioned something about coal. Luckily, I've been in BTU and HCC. Again, part of the energy theme, I think, is all of the above. We're going to need everything. But BTU just spiked. I waited for it to settle down, and I just added to my position.
nice.
I mean, regardless of him mentioning anything, I love that chart.
So I had a question on the YouTube side asking what option I would purchase for Lightbridge and how far out would I date it. It's hard to specify that. I can lay price targets out on a chart, but choosing options is going to be entirely up to the user. I have a very, very diverse or a very different way to utilize options trades than Matthew here even. but I'd like to think that I'm also very much different than most options traders in that respect. Whereas you're going to find that there's going to be layers to that, like an onion. You can choose what's going to work best for you, and it's all going to depend on two things. One, what are your expectations? Two, what is going to be your risk to reward ratio on that, or how much weight are you going to put into it? You can decide that with options. You can go way out of the money, or you can go at the money. You can go in the money, and it's all going to have its own different advantages and disadvantages. So,
Right. I mean,
for
everyone's trading style is going to be different. I typically, for me, on the names I'm in, the themes I'm in, I want to be there. So my long-term themes, I might go out a year, I might go out 2 years. When I'm trading shorter term stuff, I might go out a week, I might go out 2 weeks, I might go out a month, depending on how long I think I'm going to be in that trade. Because, if you think you're going to be in a trade for a week, you don't want to buy a 2-year option, because
right,
you may be right and you might make $10 because it's just not going to move. On the other hand, if you're looking at a long-term theme, you don't want to buy a weekly option because, yeah, you could be right, but it could happen the day after expiration. So it just really comes down to a lot of different factors. You and I are probably going to choose different options. What I also will do sometimes, like, when I added to my BTU, I bought a different expiration. That gives me it's not really diversification, but I've got some time horizon diversification. I had a shorter dated BTU option. I supplemented with a longer dated. So my shorter dated will move more. It'll have more risk than my longer dated will.
good point. And BTU is right at angular support. Everything's lining up for it being generally bullish in this stage. So I like it overall as well. But yeah, when it comes to duration, that's going to be a major key factor with your options plays, and it'll be either short side or long, or short duration or long duration, or somewhere in between. So it's really it's an open book. I mean, there's so many layers in there that you gotta weigh out and understand. And we've said it again this morning. Like, price action is your trade school, or your your basic degree in the subject, whereas options can be like a PhD. You got a lot of reading to do. So it's gonna suck for the lazy traders that don't want to read that much into it. But for those who are willing to be a bit of a knowledge junkie, so to speak, or a research junkie, you're going to have the advantage. You're going to learn a lot, and there's tons of information out there on options, not just in our website, but I mean in everywhere you're going to find it. And there's
And you know where you'll also find it? You'll find it on ChatGPT.
yes, you
I
will.
will often run. I ran an option strategy by it the other day that I had looked at it from a bunch of different angles and thought it made a lot of sense. ChatGPT analyzed it and showed me it had more risk in it than I thought. I still put the strategy on and it still worked how I wanted it to work, but it brought something to my attention I was not thinking about.
Right.
It's 12:29, so let's start wrapping up.
Yeah.
So we're going to do this every week. The links will always be in my newsletter. You can sign up at theheatformula.substack.com or on my website, tuttlecap.com. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm at bullishbears.com is the website, and then we also have our socials on X and Facebook and some Instagram stuff. And then there's our community. So if you like learning stuff and you've got a little time to either learn to day trade, maybe even before work in the morning or later in the afternoon, we're always talking in our channels. You join our community. It's probably the most affordable education community that you'll ever find. And I think even Benzinga said that about us. We're like the bottom dollar, but the best value in the market for when it comes to learning communities. And it's pretty easy to find us. So you know where to look. Also, we got a YouTube channel where we do all this stuff too. I did have one last question on the YouTube side here, if we got a moment, and I forgot the dang
go
ticker
ahead.
for it. What was the price target on Tempest? And I can't remember the dang ticket or the ticker for it.
TEM.
TEM. Okay, simple enough.
When Nancy is buying, the price target's unlimited. But go ahead, you're the price target guy.
So they're asking what call to do on it. And again, that's a very, very weighted question on what call to use. But price action wise, we can find some targets for you. This one's a bit nasty to trade. I can be honest with you. This is some
take your profits on TEM. You know, I'm not saying sell out of it, but I'm saying if you've got profits in this name, take them.
Yeah.
Because look at this chart. It's a wild ride.
And we literally wicked out of resistance today. And this is an old block move that we had from like way back here when we set this up as the primary. This was back when we were bagging on Kramer about this one when he said sell it. And we're like, hell no. But now we're looking at this. You know, this was early market structure. All the capitalization happened here. It gave us the big nasty double top look to it from a technical standpoint. And then we had this trend here. Now we're just above reversion on this entire trend. So this is a dangerous area to go long on this guy. I would say I wouldn't even dare wheel trade it at this point. I would wait and see what this does. But you're right. This is a good time to, if you got long on this move, you take some profit and you can leave a couple runners on 3 to 10% of whatever your gains were. Sure, that's about the average move for a reasonable trader. This is going to be a time where we want to make sure we're not getting our neck chopped on this one. So would I short it? No. I'm going to wait and see what this does because this was one hell of a move. And
no, if you're shorting it, you're going against Nancy Pelosi. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that indeed.
I mean, if Kramer comes out and says buy, all right.
Sure,
you have my
trade a Kramer bar.
Short, but not right now.
But we love giving the Kramer bar description, and I tried to write it in Urban Dictionary. They denied me. Sorry. But when Kramer starts saying stuff and you start to see the Kramer bar, just know that those are usually over within a day. They're usually very short-lived. So when you start hearing Kramer talk about it, if you aren't already running a short on him being bullish or running a long on him being bearish, very quickly, you get your wrist smacked on that one. So be very cautious with that. Not to bag on Kramer much anymore. I mean, his heart's in the right place. We say that every time. But in the meantime, when you see attention on it, just think exit liquidity. If I was a market maker and I wanted exit liquidity, who am I going to listen to? Who am I going to watch? And then some of that might very well be Nancy Pelosi herself. Just saying. So yeah, you don't want to trade against Pelosi. You know, just like all the people who were perma bears on Tesla over the years, you don't want to trade against Elon Musk either. Pretty simple, obvious stuff. And this is a nasty chart. It's a face ripper. So wait and see. Let this settle a little bit. You'll see a setup for short-term stuff. But for now, I'm going to sit on my hands with it. I'm not touching it. I think that's a smart thing to do and say.
Yep. All right. Well, let's end it there. We're 4 minutes over.
Yeah.
But you know, stay in touch. We're going to do this on a weekly basis. You know, submit questions ahead of time, whatever you want.
Absolutely. And thanks again for doing that. Apologize for the overtime, but I get talking. I don't shut up. Thanks again, man. We'll see you guys next week.